Hello, this is the Chapter 12, Becoming an Analytic HCO chapter for HSC 400, Healthcare Analytics. And this is the last chapter that we're going to go through, so this will be the end one, as it were. This is really kind of an overview process. It's not a very large chapter, and it's kind of a conclusion-based chapter on what we've talked about and some review of the things we've sort of went through in earlier chapters. So the requirements of an analytic HCO, in that the analytic needs of the business stakeholders are understood. That's really the first step. If you look at what's called the Harvard report card, or the report card mechanism that people look at for quality improvement, what they do is they suggest that you actually, if you own a business, that you actually go out to all your vendors and you make them aware of the type of business you have and the needs you have. You bring them in, you wine and dine them, and you give them a presentation on what's going to happen. That you also make them competitive. That you take vendors and you open bids for certain things you're using with different vendors at every year or so, or every so often, and you make sure that they understand that they're going to go out for competitive bid year to year. So if they don't perform, then you're going to get rid of them. And that if they do perform, you'll continue. But you're going to start comparing them to other people as far as prices and responsiveness and all those kind of things. The organization must possess the right analytical people and skill sets. That's kind of true. We usually get somebody who could spell IT, who and took statistics once in high school, and we sometimes attempt to turn them into an analytical professional, which is not very good. It's a process, and they have to have people who are going to have certain characteristics that we'll talk about later in this chapter. The technology infrastructure actually supports analytical people and the analytical needs of the business. If you don't have a strong technological infrastructure and you haven't gone to an EMR and you're not going to do that, and you don't like to put out money for computers, software, and all that kind of stuff, then you're going to probably not be that person. Unfortunately, some organizations are kind of stuck there. I think independent nursing homes are probably the one that sticks out in my mind. Most of them kind of run on a pretty limited dollar amount, revenue amount, and so they are kind of living from week to week sometimes, and they're unlikely to do that. Now, if they're part of one nursing home and it's attached to a great big organization, they may be more likely to do that. The analytical people are deployed to the right projects on activities that move the organization closer to achieving its performance and quality goals. Sometimes the analytics people, and I've had a department that was stuck with this, you'd have anybody who showed up and said, I want you to run this, they'd have to do it. Unfortunately, they couldn't go out and select the ones that were more likely or more needy, and nor was there a selection process that, hey, what do you think we should be working on? And then go to the CEO and say, here's what we need to be doing. What do you want us to work on? What areas would you like us to focus on? What daily reports or weekly reports or monthly reports or updates would you like to have? What can we do? What are those things we need to do? We go to senior leadership and do that. And finally, healthcare leaders, QI teams, and other decision makers actually use the information. If you're creating information and nobody looks at it because there's just too much, or they get inundated, they're not going to do much about it, and that's really a worthless waste of effort. Now, the reason there are gaps between analytic development and their use is the resistance to change. We have HCO leaders who may be CEOs or leaders for a long time. They've used their gut feeling approach forever, and they don't really value analytics. They see that as the magic that's not really trustable. The rapid business change. Sometimes by the time the analytic tool or report has been deployed, the crisis that is there, crisis du jour is my way of saying that, has passed, and the healthcare organization has moved on to other issues, no longer cares about it. They only deal with what's in front of them, and that's kind of the idiot dinosaur look, I always call it, where you're only worried about what's in front of you. When the other bigger dinosaurs behind you chomping on your tail, you're only worried about what you see. And then distrust. When the HCO leadership has inherent distrust of information, maybe they've gotten information before that's led them astray, or they've not got the right information, it's hard to gain that trust back. Now, analytics, hold on a second here. Yep, okay, sorry. Analytics team goals. And the team goals should be technical, professional, and execution. Technical, the healthcare organizations should establish a smooth transfer of data from source systems into what's called the enterprise data warehouse that we talked about, and that the data is accurate as possible. I can't stress that enough. Trash in, trash out. Professional, the HCO has enough of the right professionals and the right skills to undertake analytical activities in pursuit of healthcare organizations' quality goals. That's really important. and that is you need to have people that can react to that. It has to be actionable, and we said that before. And then execution. The healthcare organization has the process in place to deliver the right analytical capabilities and their outputs to those who are working on the actual healthcare transformation initiatives. So it has to be able to deliver that. It doesn't matter what you produce unless it gets out there and it is in a usable form. The requirements to become an analytic organization requires a strategy, leadership and commitment, focus, agility, and teamwork. That's how you develop an analytic organization. The strategy part guides the healthcare organization's ability to rapidly respond to information needs of key decision makers. That's number one. It should support QI and PI projects. It should provide a blueprint for helping the HCO achieve maximum benefits from analytics. Those are all really important. And it should be consistent but have some flexibility. That doesn't mean that every emergency is a drop, step, everything else to get to it. It means that you have to be flexible, and sometimes the emergency really is an emergency. Leadership and commitment part of this. Keep the HCO focused on its strategic goals and objectives. That's really important. Sometimes people kind of wander off and they get away from that. To promote and champion use of analytics throughout the healthcare organization, should enforce data governance policies and procedures so they can manage the data effectively and functionally so that you're getting good data and you're storing it correctly and you're managing it correctly. Should encourage, enable, and reward innovation and experimentation. Often people in some organizations, if something has gone bad, they get beat up and they are unlikely to take the chance or risk again. It's really important that people have the ability to make mistakes. That's really important. If you're trying your very best and you tried something new because you wanted to improve something, it didn't go well, then you shouldn't be beat up for it. You should be encouraged that you took the chance and to fix it. But that's the goal, and that's kind of an educational or mentoring moment, I call them. It's not making a mistake is not always bad. Sometimes it leads you to greater successes. Now, I'll never forget I put together a pilot which redid the whole financials for one particular clinic, and we were in the middle of doing the pilot, and we realized that everything depended on this really specialized printer, and the specialized printer was very undependable, and so it would go down all the time. So our whole process would die around this printer. And so that occurred in the first few hours, and I got my team back together again, so we have to circumvent this printer problem. We have to do something different. And so within 24 hours, we changed the process. We looked at the process, put it in place, and modeled it, and became we expanded it throughout the organization. It was highly successful. So the leadership commitment should provide analytic teams the necessary training and tools. And that's continuous training, by the way. It's not like you get trained once and you're done, because there's new and improved things, and so they should have continuous training over time, and that should be built into the budget. That's what usually doesn't happen. We have to look at focus, strategic and tactical and reactionary. Strategic focus is development analysis activities that build analytics into the strategic resource for the HCO. These should be centered around the strategic goals of the organization. That's really important. Tactical is really activities that are supportive specific QI or PI projects. That means these are projects that should be supporting the strategic plan too, but they're more process-oriented, not outcome-oriented like in strategic plans. And then reactionary, that's work that is done as a result of someone's data emergency. And this book says it this way, but sometimes reactionary isn't just a data emergency. It's because something has happened that's an aberration of normal, and we need to get an answer to it quickly. It is critical, it could be enterprise-wide affecting, and those need to be addressed. And so what I often did is I had a group that stayed on the strategic and tactical activities. Then I had people assigned to potential reactionary work. They would aid the other groups when they could, but their job was to take care of the data emergencies. And those come up, and if you can respond to those effectively, that's great. But you need to, I'll go back, you need to guide people to not procrastinate until it becomes an emergency, because their procrastination turns into your data emergency. You need to help them learn that that's not an effective way to do things. So in that, if you report your data emergencies to your CEO, and they start asking, well, why weren't they working on these things? You say, well, so-and-so had this data emergency, and then they can deal with it. You'll find that people are reticent to start to do those things unless they're bona fide and they're valid. Agility. The healthcare quality improvement needs to be agile. It must be able to respond to issues and requests as they arise. The QI projects are no longer year-long efforts. We even have rapid process improvement, RPI. So this is an improvement that goes from day to day to day to day. It really is that effective, that quick. And so expectations are now not we'll finish this up in 6 months, but we'll finish it up in a few days or a few weeks. And analytic teams must know how to take raw data and present it in a usable form to healthcare organization leadership and to QI and PI teams. So you need to be able to do that quickly. It's not like we'll get to this in a couple of weeks. It's like we need to be able to turn around quickly. Now, analytic professionals should possess a natural curiosity. They should say, you know, what how this works. They should be the people that take the watches apart. They should revel in asking what and why. They should have innovative mindset. They should see analytics as helping to improve processes, not just a report they have to build. They should have a business focus because learning, having this nice curiosity isn't really helpful unless it's useful in your business or your clinical output. So analytics must be aligned with business goals. They should have some technological savvy, obviously. They must be highly technological. And the important part of that is that they must have that inherent ability, if you will, to look at the technology and think of solutions. And they must be a team player because there's a lot of handoffs. It isn't just a one-man shop in most cases. Analytics must be able to work with people of multi-varied backgrounds and training and education and such, and they have to be a great translator, I call it. Translation between the strictly statistical analyses and translating that into usable information. So summary, HCOs face unique challenges in analytics. Healthcare organizations achieve success by allowing their staff to try out new and innovative ideas supported by analytics, and QI and PI initiatives have a much greater chance of success when analytics is interlaced with that. This completes the 12th and final chapter. Thank you very much.